All right, today we are going to tackle a term you hear thrown around all the time in tech, APIs. What in the world are they really? Well, before we get into the nitty-gritty, let me ask you something. Did you know there's this one single concept that powers pretty much every app on your phone? I mean, it's the invisible engine behind billions of things we do every single day. Checking the weather, booking a flight, you name it. And it all comes down to this one idea. Okay, so let's jump right in. We're going to slice right through all that confusing tech jargon and get to the simple truth behind what an API actually is. So, if you were to Google it, you'd see that API stands for Application Programming Interface. Yeah, I know. It sounds super technical and maybe a little intimidating, right? Application Programming Interface. But trust me, we're going to break this down into something that actually makes sense.
When you boil it all down, the idea is incredibly simple. Think of an API as a translator or maybe a set of rules that lets different computer programs talk to each other. That's really it. It's the official language they use to ask for things and share information.
And, to really get a feel for this, let's just step away from computers and code for a second. Let's use an everyday analogy. Imagine you're making a reservation at a restaurant. Okay, so picture this. You've got a dinner reservation for 3, but you know how it is, last minute, a few more friends want to tag along. So now you need to change that table from 3 people to 6. You've basically got 2 ways you could handle this. So there's the easy way, right? You just call the restaurant. A customer service rep answers, takes your request, checks their system, and comes back with a simple yes or no. Easy. But imagine the hard way. You'd have to somehow get into their system yourself and figure out everything. Table counts, kitchen capacity, who's on shift. I mean, it would be an absolute mess, super complicated, and you'd be seeing all this private info you really have no business seeing. And that right there, that's the key in our little story. That helpful customer service rep. That's the API. They are the clean, simple interface. They let you, the customer, interact with the super complex system of the restaurant without you ever needing to know about all the messy details happening behind the scenes. Okay, so let's bring this idea back from the restaurant and into the real world, to the apps we use every single day. Let's talk about a classic example, the weather app on your phone. I mean, have you ever really thought about it? How does that weather app actually know the forecast for your city? Do you think Apple or Google has thousands of their own weather stations scattered all over the globe? Yeah, of course not. That would be crazy expensive and super inefficient. No, they do something way smarter. They get their data from a company that specializes in weather, someone like weather.com. So the big question is, how do these two completely different companies' systems talk to each other? And by now, you've probably guessed it. They use an API. And look how perfectly this maps back to our restaurant story. Apple's app, that's you, the customer, making a request. Hey, what's the weather in London? Weather.com's API, that's our customer service rep. It takes the request. And Weather.com's massive, complex system of data, that's the kitchen, doing all the work in the back. It finds the answer and sends it right back through that same API. Okay, so now that we've got the big idea down, let's just peek a little bit under the hood. At its core, pretty much every API interaction boils down to a really simple 2-step dance, a request and a response. This whole back and forth, by the way, is called an API call. So on one side, you have the request. This is where one program sends a carefully structured message over the internet asking for something very specific, like get weather for London. And then on the other side, you have the response. The server gets that message and sends one back. This response either has the data you asked for all nicely formatted, or it might just send back a status code to let you know what happened. And I guarantee you've seen one of these status codes before. Ever tried to go to a web page and gotten that big 404 not found error? Well, guess what? That's an API response. Your web browser made a request, an API call, and the server sent back a response, a status code, basically saying, "Oops, sorry, I looked, but I couldn't find what you asked for." All right, so let's zoom back out for the big picture. Why does any of this matter? What makes APIs so incredibly important to our modern digital world? Okay, so here are the key things to remember. First, APIs are basically the glue holding the digital world together. They let all these different applications share data and functionality with each other. And just like our restaurant example, they hide all the crazy complexity behind a nice, simple interface. But maybe the most magical part is this. They let developers build new apps super, super fast. Because why build a whole new weather system or a whole new payment system from scratch when you can just plug into an existing one? It's kind of like building with digital Legos. So I'll leave you with this one last thought. Now that you're in on the secret, I promise you, you're going to start seeing APIs absolutely everywhere. When you log into an app using your Google or Facebook account, that's an API. When your Uber or Lyft shows you a map, that's an API. They're not just the glue, they are the true engine of innovation today. So think about your own day. What's one thing you did today that was only possible because of this simple but incredibly powerful idea?